Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Domestic Supply Chain Summit virtual event. I'm Thomas Watson, trucking expert here at FreightWaves. And for today, we're going to talk about, especially in this talk, technology and how it is a great supply chain equalizer. Super excited to be having two guests for this fireside chat. First one's going to be Kyle Wegman. He is Vice President of Product at Turvo. And then we're going to be having Robert Martin as well, Director of Sales and Operations at Rebus Logistics. We're going to start with diving right in. Let's start with Robert here because it's really amazing, especially looking at the growth and how tech can impact us. Tell us a little bit about Rebus Logistics, and there's some really cool data on the shipping. I'm going to bring it up here. 40 shipments in February of 22, kicking it up by November of 23 to 1,500 a month. That is wild.
Yeah, so obviously we've grown quite a bit here in the last year and a half, and it's been a relatively difficult time to grow a 3PL or any trucking company, as I'm sure everyone on this call is aware. And really how we've done that is taking our base customers from our marketplace and kind of grown that organically through our logistics product. I can get into that a little bit, but really I think we want to focus on the logistics side of the business today. So really what we've done is we've created a pretty flexible product, great visibility, great tech, very simple to use. I always say we need to create the Amazon effect. Why do people use Amazon? Well, it's really, really easy. So if we're easy to work with, we'll be able to scale our business, and people will come to us. If you build it, they will come, as they say. It's tech, it's people, and it's putting it together and making it work.
I think it's a great point because a lot of times, sometimes companies, especially in the supply chain, they'll get the people when they ask the tech question. Sometimes it's either like, do I need to buy it? Do I need to build it? Some people get bogged down building something they should have bought or partnered up with. And let's kick it over to Kyle real quick. Tell us a little bit about how Turvo and Rebus Logistics started the partnership, and kind of why it's such a big deal, because I've seen it happen from my own personal experience. You get caught between a TMS, you try to upgrade to another one, you get growing pains for a year and a half, and it just gets weird.
It does certainly get weird. I've been working in the TMS industry for about 15 years now across several of the different big players, and that switch over or even the initial adoption tends to be so complex that over time there's been a lot of barriers to being able to adopt new technology in this space. And all of that is becoming a lot easier and cheaper now. And when we started working with Rebus, they didn't even have an MC number yet. It was kind of just this pie in the sky idea of, we've got this metals marketplace, all these people interacting with it, we're crushing that side of the business. We want to offer the logistics side of it as well. And there was a lot of talking about how that tech would work, and they're a tech-forward company. But overall, the big thing that made us say we got to work with these guys was, I actually have the notes from our original sales demo, and it said these guys are obsessed with the end-user experience. And that was really what drove us to want to work with them and say, we'll work with these guys. They're small. We'll help them figure it out, and we'll get them out onto the platform. And I think that combination of their drive and their vision of knowing what they wanted to do, as well as on our side, just making it as simple and as cheap as possible to get into the world of TMS tech, just was a match made in heaven, and it's worked out really well thus far.
I think that's one of the coolest developments is the advent and the ability of the technology. It used to be you had to go to like a big corporation who was a big legacy TMS player, and you had to kind of go through these hoops. And now there's accessibility. Robert, looking at how you're using technology to help with that customer experience, especially when it comes in logistics, where customer can sometimes feel like, I'm not going to say commoditized, but it feels like the offerings can be the same. Talk a little bit about how that tech helped augment your offerings, because, looking at the data here, that is extremely remarkable. You're nearly at the size of an OTR carrier. I remember 2,500 trucks chew through about a few thousand loads per week. So that's a remarkable growth story, and how the technology is allowing that to happen.
Yeah, that's right. We're definitely getting there, and it's been a lot of hard work, and it's definitely been augmented by Turvo. And really, what's helped from my perspective with Turvo is you go out to these larger shipper partners, and really we started upstream in the supply chain, very very large mills. Um, Mills talking about hundreds and hundreds of shipments per day, and you need to be able to integrate with their tech, right? And we didn't have that ourselves. Obviously, we went the route with Turvo instead of building our own, which is extremely complicated, extremely expensive, extremely time consuming. But really, what Turvo has enabled us to do is integrate not only with their TMSs, but integrate with tracking aggregators and give us the data we need in real time to partner with these carriers. Because in the last decade or so, everyone's made it a requirement. If you can't integrate with X, Y, and Z, well, you can't be a carrier. So Turbo's really enabled us to do that very efficiently and quickly.
And looking at that the quickness and speed, I know is one thing. Having a provider, especially the tech top 30 3PLs, Turvo does work with a lot of players in the industry. One thing I noticed that one of the challenges, even from the overall supply chain, is having integrations, having something like an EDI. And I remember when I came from a brokerage that was trying to transition, that was like moving a mountain because they didn't have, it felt like every new EDI connection, every new large volume shipment I got was different. Having the experience, is that one of the advantages? Because that's one of the things I've noticed is that if you've done it for one of the large shippers and one of your customers lands as shipper, you've already got experience how to deal with their systems. That's kind of feels like an advantage. You can dig into that, Kyle.
Yeah, like I mentioned, every year, I like to say EDI is like the flying car. Every year we say, oh, EDI is going to be gone in 10 years, in 5 years, in 2 years. And nevertheless, it just remains. It never goes away. And Turvo, we pride ourselves, we call ourselves the collaborative TMS. And really what that means is we offer you tools. We think of it like a sales funnel of no matter how technologically advanced you are or how advanced the other side of the other party you're working with is, we give you all the tools to connect with each other. Whether it's simple email tools of automating emails that go back and forth to let people know what's happening. We have apps. We have a free driver app with over 1 million drivers participating on our driver app. So if you've got drivers and mom and pop shops that aren't out there on the big tracking aggregators or can't connect you to their ELD, download our app and you can use that, all the way up to custom integrations and EDI connections to everyone out there. So that's really our cornerstone, is that if you need to connect with anyone in your supply chain in any which way, we give you the tools to do that. And that's what differentiates us in the market.
And kind of kicking it over to Rob real quick, one of the things that I've noticed, starting in February 22, is there a situation where customers are paying attention to the tech, the brokerage's tech, the provider? It almost reminds me of the joke where if you have an Android or an Apple, you get the blue check so you can tell that person's an iPhone user. I wonder, because of how this tech has evolved compared to other providers, is that something they're paying attention to? Because I remember seeing rate cons even from a shipper using a 1980 style TMS, and I'm still plugging in by hand, cursing myself under my breath. Have you gotten any feedback from that front?
Yeah, so if we could kind of zoom out and talk about tech as a whole in this space. In 2021, demand was crazy, supply was tight, right? Tech was a nice to have. Fast forward to 2022, back in 22, certainly 2023, tech was no longer a nice to have. It was a, hey, do you have this? Because if not, we'll kick you out. So it's certainly, especially this year, if we wanted to keep growing and add more partners, certainly partners of scale, large shippers became more and more pertinent that we have it. And be able to provide the types of integrations and connectivity that big shippers require. So it's certainly given us a leg up.
That's what I was curious about as well, because even Kyle, looking at the evolution, is there a situation where, as we see the supply chain, the technology has started maturing? I spoke a year ago to someone who said we were building the tech in 2021, we're paying for it, and now that the market's changed, by the end of 22 to 23, it needs to start making that money. And so, is there something where you're getting more feedback from the customers or from the brokers as you're developing the Turvo and the platform? Or What are we looking at in terms of an outlook for folks who are trying to wrap around it? Because for me, it feels like a huge change, at least the TMS and the platforms. Because back in the day when I started in this industry, people were a lot more forgiving if you could have some just barely put together TMS with duct tape.
Yeah, it was a lot of what I call brutalist software design in the space. They were a lot more tolerant, and over time, yes, we've become a lot less tolerant to these kind of half-baked and inefficient systems. And especially in TMS, the big change over the last 10, 15 years was that before you were expecting your TMS provider to do everything. When it came to integrations and partnerships, there just weren't that many other companies out there in the tech world. And so now we have so many different companies participating and competing with different software solutions every step of the line. I think that especially in the last 2 years, there was a lot more of an adventurous attitude almost in 2020 and 21 of, I'll throw cash at this newer company, see what they can do, and work with them. Where I think in 2022 and 23 and 4, companies are buying less new technology, and they're more focused on working with the providers that they've got to really perfect things and say, do you belong in my stack or not?
That's a big question as we're moving in, and I think that setting oneself apart is going to be key. And it's such a great conversation. Wish we had more time. These fireside chats are quick, though. Got a minute left. I'll start with Robert, then Kyle. Folks want to learn more about your companies, get in touch. What's the best way to find out?
Yeah, check us out, Rebus.com. That'll take you to our metals marketplace. Within that main website, there's a logistics tab. That's obviously part of the business that I focus on. We move our own freight. Dozens of shipments per day that is Rebus freight, and then we've expanded that offering to shippers that move metal. So mostly flatbed, done a little bit of dry van, but 98% flatbed, oils, stuff like that.
And Kyle, folks want to learn more about Turvo, get in touch. What's the best way to find out?
Check out our website at turvo.com. And if you want to see a demo of what we can do, I'd say check out one of our many 7-minute demos at FreightWaves. Not to toot my own horn, but the last one from F3 I think is pretty fantastic that I did with Ashley Smith. So check out our 7-minute demos out there on YouTube or at FreightWaves, and check out our website at turvo.com.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. That's going to be a wrap for this fireside chat. But don't worry, if you're just joining us, a lot more great content coming up. And if you happen to miss it, it'll be on our YouTube channel, wherever else you may find your media. That's a wrap. Tune in for some really good stuff coming up right after the break.